Hi, it's your pal Steamed Hams. Join me as I discuss topics in the nerd world such as gaming, movies, cartoons, toys, and whatever else may have you. You can find me on the socials as Steamed Hams81, on Twitch, Twitter, currently known as X, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and as The Unforgettable Luncheon on Facebook. Also, check out Steamed Hams Merchtorium. Links to all are in the description of this podcast. And don't forget to try my new fan mail link where you can send me a text and tell me how I'm doing. Click that link and send me a message. The Unforgettable Luncheon, nerd comedy at its okayest. As someone who was born in the very early 80s, I was lucky enough to grow up during the heyday of video stores. A magical place where you could pay a fee and take a copy of a movie home for a night to watch it. Whether it's a newer movie that you missed in theaters, or an old favorite that you just enjoy watching over and over again, video stores were a place where you could make that fantasy happen. So be kind and rewind as I discuss the rise and fall of video rental stores today on The Unforgettable Luncheon. Hi, it's your pal Steamed Hams. I hope you're ready for an unforgettable luncheon. Now before we begin, a couple of announcements. You ever wanted to send me a message directly outside of all the social medias? Something more private? Now you can. Click the handy dandy link in the description to send me a text. You can send me things such as praise, criticism, you up, what you wearing, and you son of a bitch, and so much more. So click that sweet, sweet link and send me a text today. Also, this year I am once again participating in Extra Life. Extra Life is a gaming charity raising money for children's hospitals throughout the country. This year I'm once again playing for Ann and Robert H. Lurie Children's Hospital in Chicago. Click the link in the description to donate today. My goal is $1,000. I will be playing in early November. Now, on with the show. Video stores. Those of you who grew up in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s know what I'm talking about. It's Friday night in 1994. Your mom takes you to Blockbuster to rent a couple movies and a Super Nintendo game for the weekend. Life is good. Now, video stores are awesome. You walk in, and there's a vast array of movies and video games for you to rent for a night or two. Maybe you find a hidden gem you never knew about. Get to try a game without the worry of spending $60 to buy it and find out it sucked. Maybe you see a film you missed in theaters because your mom grounded you from seeing Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi Special Editions in 1997 for a bad grade. Either way, the video store was a haven for film and gaming buffs. But you don't really see them much anymore, if at all. You know, at least the big chains. With the advent of streaming services and on-demand, why would you go out to rent something when it's probably relatively free on Netflix? I mean, you're still paying a rental or a fee, but, you know, you get to watch multiple movies for the same price. So we're going to talk about the rise and fall of video stores today. Video rental stores actually are predated video cassettes by a few years, believe it or not. Eckhard Baum in Germany used to collect movies on Super 8 film as a hobby. He'd lend out movies from his collection to friends and family and realized that, well, there was a lot of interest in them. So he started a rental shop in 1975. Of course, over the years, Baum added VHS, Laserdisc, and later DVDs. Do you want to hear the craziest part, though? As of 2024, as of this recording, I checked this out. That shop is still open. I mean, there's very, very few mom-and-pop video stores left in the U.S., if at all. But this store has been going strong since 1975. So take that, Netflix. Now, in 1975, Sony started manufacturing the first commercially available VCR, or video cassette recorder, for you youngins who have no idea what a frickin' VCR is. The cost was insane, though. $1,400 in 1970s money. I looked it up. Adjusted for inflation, that's like $9,200. You had to be a rich son of a bitch to own one of these things. Of course, by the mid-'80s, the price dropped to about $400, and the technology was better, so, it goes on. Just like with DVD players. They cost a mint when they first came out, and now, you want to find a DVD player, you could probably get, 10 for $15 at, like, Costco or something. Along with, like, 5 pianos for $1. And so, what happened was, you get these machines, it's nice. Mostly you recorded, like, off the TV and whatever, because that's what they were mostly for. But in 1976, Disney and Universal tried to sue Sony and make VCRs illegal because they thought that would bite into their profits. Imagine Disney suing someone over lost profits. Yeah, that's nothing they've ever done. No. Now, the Betamax, the format at the time, was mostly used for recording. So, of course, as I said, you can record your shows to watch later. That's called time shifting, believe it or not. The idea was basically, hey, I want to watch a show, but I'm not going to be available when it's on, so I'd like to be able to see it, and I record it. But I think these guys were afraid that you were going to record the newest episode of All in the Family and sell copies to the neighbors. But in reality, people were doing it so they could, again, watch the show later. Or even watch it over and over again if it was a really good episode. I could just see, well, I have to go to dinner with my in-laws, but the new episode of MASH is on tonight. I hear Hawkeye's antics are going to annoy the other surgeons. I have to see this. I mean, honestly, this is how the Star Wars Holiday Special continues to exist, and we are thankful for it. But if you've never seen it, kind of count yourself lucky. There's a reason George Lucas wanted it buried, but I haven't. So guess what happened in this lawsuit? Sony won, because the Supreme Court said so. In 1977, 20th Century Fox signed a deal with Magnetic Video to license 50 of their films for sale directly to consumers. Films like Patton, The Sound of Music, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The King and I. Now, the first U.S. video store, called Video Station, was opened by George Atkinson in L.A. in 1977. He bought all 50 titles to rent out to the public. I looked it up, and you could pay as much as $10 a night to rent a movie. So, these weren't exactly cheap back then. But, of course, the price got better as years went on, because, of course, Betamax eventually lost the format war, and VHS was cheaper and easier to use, so why not? The 1980s brought the true rise of video rentals. By 1985, there were as many as 15,000 video stores in the U.S. That's a lot of video stores. They're like the Starbucks of video rental, or Walgreens even. In 1982, you could rent Atari games, although not many stores did that because Atari games, once again, were kind of still on the expensive side-ish to a point. Plus, not everybody had an Atari back then, so by 1983, you could rent Nintendo games in video stores as well. Now, it used to be able to do that in Japan, but unfortunately, for some reason, Famicom, which is the Nintendo in what they call Nintendo in Japan, those games were kind of easy to pirate, so laws were made to make it illegal to rent video games. Well, that sucks. Video rental was such a lucrative business that everyone has a small video rental section in their stores. Grocery stores, drugstores, and the like. Hell, there was a store in my town. I grew up in the southwest suburbs of Chicago. There was this store. I don't remember what it was exactly called. I think it was actually literally called General Store. Now, when you walked in, there was a main aisle down. And on the left side, it was all video rental. On the right side, it was all home decor. Which, as a kid, I'm like, what is this video store selling? And then you could go to the grocery store, you can go to the drugstore, and they'd have their own little counter on the corner where you could rent movies from. And it was always cool. I go to the pharmacy with my grandma because she's going to get, her prescriptions or something, and I'm, staying overnight at my grandma's because my parents might be out of town or had something going to where they needed her to watch me for the night. And she'd say, hey, let's rent a movie. It was fun. in places like grocery stores, record stores, and the like, video rentals are actually called loss leaders, where they can be rented for a tiny sum as little as like 50 cents. You know, well, yeah, they're going to take a hit on that because 50 cents for a video that maybe at the time cost $60 to purchase. Yeah, they're going to take a loss on that. But you're going in the store and you're going to buy more stuff. So you're going to buy popcorn, you're going to buy candy, pop, because you want to watch the movie and have that movie theater experience in your house. You know, maybe it's a grocery store, so you're going to buy a pork roast for dinner before the movie. You know, or a 6-pack of Hamm's beer, which, yes, is a real beer, and I drink it occasionally. I can find it. So there, they still got their money from you. And it was common for video stores to rent players as well as tapes, you know, and later on, even game consoles. Now, one of the biggest worries, obviously, not just for video stores, but the studios that made them, made the films, was piracy. Now, obviously, it was very easy for someone to record a movie off, say, like HBO or Showtime using your VCR. Okay, everybody fucking did that at some point. You know, but if you really want to be a dick and you really want to be cheap as hell, you wired 2 VCRs together, you copied a movie to a blank cassette, sometimes 2 or 3, depending on the video cassette. You could actually set them for 2, 4, and 6 hours of recordings. And you just basically bought a $50 movie for like a $3, $4 rental fee. Now, I did know families who did this, mostly, you know, lower income. They wanted the movies, but they couldn't afford them, you know. They were barely scraping by. So, you know, they did that. But I ain't naming names. I ain't no snitch. Plus, really, who's going to go after, like, 40-year-old people who pirated movies like 40 years ago that are now, like, on Prime and are shown on daytime Saturday afternoon TV? So there. Now, there were some stores that sold strictly X-rated films and other sex-related items with them. Now, regular video stores, some did have their little adult section that was in the back, you know, where the kids couldn't get to them. You know, I never got to go into those because by the time I was going to be old enough to, video stores had essentially closed down for the most part. So, now, I've never gone into any of those actual adult film stores. Well, not on purpose anyways. Funny story. So, when I was stationed in Japan back in the early 2000s with the United States Navy, a friend of mine and I, we went out to this district in Tokyo called Akihabara, the Electric City, where they had a lot of cool electronic stores, arcades, pachinko parlors, stuff like that. So we wanted to check it out, wanted to kind of go tourist. We're heading back to the train. We take a side street. We're walking by the store. Looks like a video store. I remember they had a poster of Mrs. Doubtfire in the window, along with a couple other like American movies. Hey, let's check this out. So she and I walk in. We walk around. We see a lot of like average movies, you know, both American, Japanese, couple of European movies. Oh, this is cool. Hey, they got a second floor, so they probably have more movies up there. Awesome. So we go up to the second floor. Yeah, they got more movies, but they're of the porn variety. Yeah. The porn variety. Such fun. So we're like, okay, oh, cool. Hey, there's a whole other floor. Let's go check it out. We walk up there. And it's all adult cosplay costumes. Not the kind you wear to Comic-Con, but the kind you wear with your sweetie in the privacy of your own bedroom. Okay. Alright. There's another floor. Shall we tempt fate? We were young and dumb, so yes. We walked up there, and oh my god, there were sex toys. Holy shit. I mean, I discovered things that day. I learned what a fleshlight was. And, yeah, that was one of those, well, I'm never unseeing that. We saw a staircase. It's another floor. No, we're not tempting fate. I mean, honestly, we were looking for a fire pole to just go straight back down to the first floor, but no, in that place, it was going to be covered in, like, lube and dildos and probably land on a stripper the moment we got to the first floor. So, yeah, never walked in that store again. Now, some video stores had some weird-ass layouts, like putting the children's section right across the row from the horror section. I'm not even kidding. This actually happened at a video store I used to go to. Imagine 8-year-old me looking at a cartoon video I want to rent. It's like, ooh, like He-Man or Transformers. Oh, sweet. And then I turn around, and there's some horrifying creature on a horror movie staring right at you from the case. Oh yeah, I wasn't going to sleep that night. No, I was going to have nightmares. Now, most of these stores actually had an education/sports or exercise section that was usually super tiny. But those rentals were generally free because they were mostly educational. So, something to rent to watch in school or for you to learn something. They're not going to charge you for that. So, cool. But you can guess how often I wandered into that section. Never. Now, as a kid, I think I rented more video games than I did movies. Usually because the games did not get me in trouble like movies did. Like, one night, my mom took my sisters and I have 4 younger sisters, to the video store. Each let us pick something out. Okay, cool. Now, I was like 14, 15 at the time. I had a VCR in my room. So I figured, I'm going to rent a movie, and I'll go watch it in the comfort of my own room. Let them watch their thing in the living room so they can all be happy and not crammed into a tiny room. Cool. So I pick out a movie that looked pretty funny. It looked like it was made in the 80s, and I figured I'll be watching it in my room, so if there's anything bad, I won't get in trouble. Because my mom was kind of strict with the movies when I was a kid, and music and all that stuff. And my mom decided, hey, we're all going to watch these movies as a family. Let's watch yours first. And I was like, no, I want to go watch mine alone because I just want to be alone, Just bring a can of Pepsi into my room and some popcorn and just be by myself. I just wanted to be by myself. Well, it turns out that the movie I rented was actually more of a Porky's style, like teen sex comedy from the 80s. Yeah, which I watched with my mom and my sisters in the living room. And if you've ever seen movies like that, nudity was all over the place. Oh, there were titties flopping everywhere. So, yeah, and you would think they would turn off the movie and I would get yelled at by my mom and would run like grounded. No, we watched the whole damn movie. So, yeah, that went over like a lead balloon, like a fart in church. Yep. Hence why I stuck to video games. I was more of a gamer anyways. I got older, I could rent my own stuff, so that eventually solved that problem. But I digress. The late 80s, early 90s really brought the boom in video and game rentals. Places like Blockbuster even had gaming competitions, which was cool. I remember they had a 5-week tournament at the local it was nationwide, but the local Blockbuster. 5 straight Saturdays, you came and you played this game, you set your score, and you went on it, So I think in that 5 weeks, I'd leave 2 Little League games in the middle of the game and come back, to go compete. It took me like 10 minutes to drive over there, and then I play for 10 minutes, come back. So I was gone maybe a half hour, But it wasn't a huge loss to my teams anyways, because, well, I wasn't exactly their best player. I was a kid. I was scared of a ball flying at me at God knows how much. So, yeah, no, I was good. Plus, I wasn't very athletic. So I ended up coming in 5th overall, which is nice. So I'm not mad. Now, the smaller independent stores usually got stocked by the owner's tastes for the most part. There was a small 3-store chain I used to frequent. I believe it was called Hollywood Video until the big Hollywood Video chain kind of popped up, and I think that might be part of the reason they closed down. It was nice. Their location was a 10-minute walk from me, from my house. But it bothered me because the owner refused to stock Dogma, the great Kevin Smith comedy that you can't find anywhere because Harvey Weinstein decided to fuck with the rights before he went to jail. He was offended by a raunchy comedy about Christianity. But hey, let's keep Exorcist, Stigmata, End of Days, other films about the devil and things like that in good supply. And yes, they had a porn section in the back room. So you'll carry porn, but you won't carry a movie with a Golgothan shit monster. which is hilarious because that's a boss in Jay and Silent Bob's Mall Brawl. You should check that out for Xbox, Switch, and PlayStation. Yeah, you'll carry porn, but not Dogma. Rude. That's kind of when I started slowly making my way towards Blockbuster. I mean, the only thing they didn't have was porn, but they had a bigger selection, and they had a lot of good B movies. You know, when the big boys in like Blockbuster, Family Video, Hollywood Video, and the like started dominating, the small mom and pop stores started taking a hit. The particular chain I went to closed 2 of their other locations, left the one that was close to me until probably about 2000 when they sold it off, and that moved to another location where it did not last long. So the bigger ones had like closing sales, like the 2 other locations. And it was like mobbed in that place, I remember. And I bought so many like movies that I thought were cool. I bought a whole bunch of B movies, Yeah, I like cheesy movies. The worst I can find. La la la. I sat and watched them all, but nobody monitored my mind. Hey, if you get that reference, we can be friends. Now, the early 2000s kept the big boys in business. Of course, they started switching over to DVDs because, well, that was a style at the time. They were also smaller, so they could stock more copies. And they were lightweight, which made them easy to mail. So that spawned companies like Netflix, who in the beginning, believe it or not, for all you youngins, was a service that mailed the DVDs to you. And they used to do a per rental price, then they just started doing like a monthly thing where you can have like so many movies out at a time, and there were no late fees, Blockbuster tried to do their own thing with that. Unfortunately, they couldn't compete with Netflix. And I believe Netflix even tried to buy them out, say, hey, come and join us, one of us. And they said no. And where's Blockbuster now? Gone. Lesson learned there, huh? Now, Netflix made it easier to rent movies since you didn't have to actually leave the house and you didn't pay them stinking late fees. Now, Blockbuster actually had a thing back in the late 90s where if you kept the movie for so long, they would just charge you a small amount to keep it, and done, it was yours, depending on how new the movie was. So if you did this with a movie that just came out, you were pretty much going to pay full price for the movie. Older movies, probably a few bucks at most. I think that's how my sister ended up with her VHS copy of Emperor's New Groove. I think I rented it and she never gave it back to me to return it. I forgot about it. And then I just noticed I had like $1.99 charge on it for it, for them to keep it, for us to keep it. And, like if you did return it, you had to pay a restocking fee because now they had to like, oh crap, now we have to make room for this movie that we just figured was a loss, and we had to, move everything around and this and that. So, But, of course, Netflix started giving the option to stream content versus physical rental. They were one of the first true streaming services. That, along with on-demand through cable companies and eventual streaming services like Hulu, Amazon Prime, and the like, really put a hurt on video stores. I mean, eventually, Blockbuster had to start closing stores. The last one still in existence is in Bend, Oregon. And it's like a tourist attraction now, but it is still operating and literally still has members that rent on a regular basis to this day. The last video store chain to fully close its doors entirely was Family Video in 2021. Now, I used to rent from Family Video in Macomb, Illinois when I was a student at Western Illinois University for a whole semester. Unfortunately, I was still in Navy party mode, and also the Sox went to the series that year in 2005. So, I was kind of partying hard because they won the World Series. Now, they had a pretty nice selection, to be honest. That's where I found some movies that I would have never found back home. I would have never gotten The Devil's Rejects. I would have never gotten that shitty Fourth Crow movie. That was a mistake. I used to mostly rent games out of there, too, for the old Xbox. As you can tell, I was just a really responsible student. Well, nowadays, if you really want to rent physical media, you have the option of your local library, which, especially for lower income types, is the way to go. Understandable. It's not expensive, maybe even free with your library membership. I haven't had a library card in years, so I wouldn't know. Some small stores have survived by becoming nonprofits in order to preserve film culture. They actually get grants and their employees are volunteer. But it's to preserve physical media and film culture. Because honestly, without video rental stores, I'm sure film culture wouldn't have been as big as it is. I mean, we wouldn't have had directors like Quentin Tarantino, who was writing his first movies in a video store. Kevin Smith, he worked at the Quick Stop that he filmed Clerks in, along with the RST video store that was next door that Randall worked in. So I think it's a great thing. Now, the only other option for physical media these days is Redbox. The little kiosks you see outside of like the grocery store or the Walgreens. And it's a pretty cool thing. I personally haven't used one in years, but I used to use it extensively. There was actually a girl I dated. I would spend weekends at her house because she lived like 30 minutes from my parents. So since I worked near her house, I would have weekends off. Friday night, as soon as I got off shift, went over to her place. We'd leave there Monday morning to go back to work. But she had like 2 red boxes right by her. So go rent a couple movies for the weekend. And we just have fun, watch movies. And I could just return them. And the nice thing was, you walk up to the kiosk. Or like nowadays, they have a website where you can literally just go on. You can say, hey, do I have this movie or game available near me? Hey, I'll reserve it. Bing, bang, boom. You walk up, you put in a code, and it spits out the movie. Okay? And then you rent the movie, you go home, or game, you go home and enjoy it for as long as you want. You pay by the day, and then you can return it to any Redbox kiosk you want. So say you had to go like to the next town over to rent this specific movie that you wanted because they didn't have it at any of the couple kiosks you had by your house. But you didn't have to drive back all the way out there to go return it. You could go to that kiosk that's down the block and pop it in. Boom, you're done. Now, one problem I've noticed with Redboxes, though, unfortunately, is theft. I remember really wanting to try Tom Clancy's The Division, which made me want to play The Division 2 because I love the first Division, and I've been playing Division 2 for like 6 years now. Like, continuously. I still love that game. Anyways, so I found the only Redbox anywhere nearby that had it. It was like a 15-minute drive out. Or no, I had found one that was like 6 minutes from my house, not even. So I go there, I select it, and it pops out the case. And I look at the case, and I'm like, something doesn't seem right. I open it up because, and I realize the disc is gone. It's just a little barcode that they stick on the disc, for the machine to scan. Somebody literally took that thing off, put it in the case on the little holder spindle for the DVD, and just put it back and stole the damn game. Yeah, some douche canoe straight stole that game. It was a brand new game too. It was like I'd been asking about it from coworkers who had it, and they're like, "Oh, this is awesome." Thankfully, I found another one like I think the same night. And I called Redbox and said, hey, just so you know, this game is like completely missing. So they gave me a code for like a free rental. And I got to rent it free, for my trouble of paying for an empty case. So win-win. And I ended up discovering a game I still love to this day. Now me, I do use streaming services like a son of a bitch. So I haven't rented any physical movies for a long time, but I will still buy them. Okay, I mean, I got one that's coming in the mail tomorrow for a documentary that I really enjoyed, and I will still when I go to Walmart or Target, and I'm like, holy crap, this movie's here? Yoink! Of course I'm going to buy it still. I got to support it. I'm still going to have physical media to the day I die, to the day that is no longer available ever again. But video stores, they were a wonderful relic of the past that helped ignite many movie lovers' passion for film, as I stated earlier. Without them, where would the movie and game industry be? We wouldn't have our Kevin Smiths, our Quentin Tarantinos. We wouldn't have all of this. I would have never discovered some of my favorite movies. Hell, I would not have discovered some of my favorite games, or not wasted money on certain games. So, video stores, unfortunately, we hardly knew ye. Well, that's it for another unforgettable luncheon. I hope a good time was had by all. You can find me on the social medias at Instagram, TikTok, X, formerly known as Twitter, but I will still call it Twitter, Elon, so screw you. And on Twitch as SteamedHams81. You can also find me on Facebook as The Unforgettable Luncheon. Also, you can find me on YouTube now at SteamedHams81, which is also where my podcast is now hosted, along with the other great platforms, you would call it, such as Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and the such. Don't forget to check out my merch store, Steamed Hams Merchtorium. The links to all of these are in the description. And hey, don't forget to shoot me a text through that new fan mail link. I'd love to hear from you. I'm your host, Steamed Hams. Join me next time when the topic will be something nerdy.